All right, here we go, everybody, and welcome to episode number 78 of Sports Cards Live. This is Saturday night, January 30th, 2021. My name is Jeremy Lee, and we're going to get to it right away here. Before we do, I want to thank this past Wednesday's guest. We had Edward Siegel from Investacard, recently partnered with Marcus Lemonis from CNBC's The Profit. We also have a continuation from that episode. Edward and Investacard are giving away a PSA 9 Base Prizm Zion Williamson. Stay tuned. As soon as we bring out Brett, tonight's guest, we're going to do that giveaway. Also want to let you know this coming next Saturday, my guest will be Mike Fruitman from Mike's Stadium Sports Cards. That'll be a great show. He's a longtime LCS owner and a stalwart of the hobby. If you are new here, over 90 episodes are in the archives. Be sure to check them out. You will find a guest that interests you. I guarantee it. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. We just passed the 2,000 subscriber mark last Saturday. I want to thank everybody for that. That's pretty awesome. We are well on our way to 2,100 right now. I want to also remind you all to check out The Big Three Hockey on Instagram at The Big Three Hockey on the ticker right now. These guys support the channel and they have they showcase the finest singles in the hobby on their Instagram account. Want to also make sure you guys are subscribing to the Basketball Card Fanatic magazine. There it is on the ticker right now. Issue 5 in hand right here. I print these out in color because they just look better, more fun to read. Issue number 6 will be out on, I believe, next Saturday. Check that out. Adam does a great job with those. When we bring out Brett tonight, towards the end of the episode, we will be doing the Sports Cards Live 5 and the PC card of the day. So stick around for those. As always, your comments and questions are in play. Do not be shy. Brett is he can chat it up with the best of them. So be sure to put your questions in the comments or your comments in the questions. And tonight on After Hours, starting about 2.5 hours from now, my guest is Chris from Vegas Finds 777. That should be a great episode later on tonight as well. Okay, let's get to tonight's guest. He got into the hobby in the late 80s and 90s, chasing Larry Johnson's and Dikembe Mutombos. I remember those days so well. From Upper Deck's inaugural basketball set. And then, of course, Shaq rookies thereafter. He got back into the hobby a couple years ago when his wrestling collecting buddies started talking about cards, which led him to search for Ja Morants on eBay. He broke some wax at the end of 2019, started his podcast, Stacking Slabs, and the rest is history. His favorite teams are the Indianapolis Colts, the Indiana Pacers. Favorite player is Peyton Manning. Born, bred, and still in Indianapolis, Indiana. Let's bring him out. Brett McGrath, welcome to episode 78 of Sports Cards Live. How are you doing tonight, my man?
What is good, Jeremy? Thank you for having me on Sports Card Live. This has become a staple of the hobby on Saturday night, so I am thrilled to be joining you.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I am thrilled to have you. We planned this, probably over a month ago. I've been booking out about 6 to 8 weeks in advance, so I wanted to lock you down for a night. Here we are. I'm glad it's finally come. We've been excited about this, so we're going to have a great show tonight. Before we get started, though, Brett, we do need to finish off what we started on Wednesday when we had Edward Siegel from Investacard on, and he had committed to giving away a PSA 9 Base Prizm Zion Williamson. I just want to let everybody know, I erroneously put on Instagram earlier today, it was a PSA 10. That was my mistake. Just habit. It's a PSA 9. So we have certain people who are eligible for this. The deal was whoever asked the best business question on the last episode was going to win. But we changed our minds on that because it's a bit too subjective. So we're going to do it randomly. Anyone who asked a question on last week's episode of, a business type question is in the random. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Here is how we're going to do this, everybody. Right there, we have everybody who asked a question. We have 17 people on the random. We're going to do a random generator also on the internet. Brett, if you could pick a number between 2 and 7, and that will be the amount of times we hit the randomizer.
Give me that 5.
We're going 5. All right, we're going to hit the randomizer, everybody, 5 times. So these are the names of everybody who is eligible. I hope some of you guys are here right now. I also want to mention, if you are not here and you come out on top and I don't hear from you on Instagram or Twitter, and right now I'm going to switch the ticker, everybody, to my socials right here. So there's my Instagram, there's my Twitter. You need to contact me on one of these two platforms in the next 48 hours. If you don't, it's going to go to the second person that comes up on the randomizer or on this. Actually, we'll have to do it a couple times, Brett. We'll have to do it twice just in case we need a backup. So we'll do it 5 times. The 6th time, that whoever's name is associated with the 6th randomly generated figure, that person will be the backup. So I'm going to so these are your numbers. Jared Cheese Gaming is 1, J-Rod 2, and so forth, all the way down to Jordan Hagedorn at number 17. So I'm going to bring up the randomizer right now. Here we go. This is just in Google. I'm going to hit generate 5 times, and the number that shows up here is going to be the winner of the Prizm Base Zion PSA 9. So here we go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Person number 3, that is all-time greats blog, Victor Roman Sr. You are the winner of the PSA 9 Prizm Base Zion Williamson. But we're going to hit it one more time, Brett, to make sure, in case we don't hear from Victor, that the other person, that we have someone on backup. So here we go. The next one is number 8. So our backup winner, in case you have a shot, is Steve Sir. You are our backup. I will save that. We'll just save that later. And we will now move on and get on with the show. Congratulations, Victor, if you were there. Very happy for you. Everybody else, thanks for participating. Thanks for being a part of the show on Wednesday with Investacard. All right, let's get on to tonight's episode. We got Brett McGrath, Stacking Slabs podcast, one of my favorite podcasts in the hobby. If not my favorite used to be House of Jordans, but Chris and Christina and Brian, they've pretty much packed that in. It seems like they've moved on to bigger, better things with Card Ladder and sports card culture, etc. Stacking Slabs is right up there for me now, buddy. Let's talk a little bit about it. You know, you've been in the hobby for a while. How did you go from collecting wrestling figures to hosting one of the best podcasts in the hobby?
You know, I've been a collector my entire life. I collect all things that I'm really passionate about, and it just gone through some turns and evolutions, and wrestling has kind of been the steady stream my entire life. I was 3 years old and kind of Macho Man and the bright lights took me in, and I've never left. So I've been hooked on the wrestling side for quite some time. And at the end of 2019, a bunch of degenerate wrestling fans that I was interacting with online started breaking boxes of wrestling cards. And I was like, this is really cool. And then I started to think, man, like, I wonder what the sports card market's like right now. Obviously, I was deep in it when I was a kid, junk wax era. And so there was a great rookie class. I'm a big football fan. And so I just started diving into that. And I went to my LCS and I looked at the price of hobby boxes and said, wow, these things are expensive, but I got to start ripping wax because I didn't know any better. So I started ripping wax and quickly spent a lot of money and was like, how do you do this now? So my background is in B2B marketing, and I do podcast communications for a living. So I said to myself, well, there's got to be a lot of people in my age demo that are going through the same experience. So why don't I spin up a sports card podcast? It was COVID. I was stuck at home looking for something to do besides work, and the rest is history. I had an assumption that there was a lot of people like me. And so I just started sharing what I was learning. It started engaging with the community on social, started building and developing relationships, and just remained consistent with the content. And so it's just snowballed. I've met some incredible people like you from all over the world. I'm having so much fun still learning about sports cards. And you mentioned House of Jordans and Chris and that crew. And they certainly were one of the first podcasts that I listened to. And I've been fortunate to just build relationships with people like Chris. And it's just addicting. I think we can all agree. It's an addicting, stimulating hobby with people and cards and everything else. So I'm fortunate that I've got the platform that I do and can share out what I'm thinking on a daily basis, and people actually listen. So it's great.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a couple of things there. You mentioned consistency, very important in the space when you're creating content. Of course, people want to know where to come. It's something that I've been trying to stick with myself. But you also mentioned, people from around the world, and that's what you know. We are international. There's people all over the place that collect these things. All on 6 of the 7 continents, I'm sure, and it's been a big blessing, I think, for all of us, especially those of us that put ourselves out there and really get to interact with those people. I know that I've really appreciated that and feel like I made friends from all over the place. So that's pretty awesome. So you collect, you love the hobby. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you actually collect.
Yeah, so I think I've got.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I think I've gone through a similar evolution to a lot of people. I think going through just try to collect some things that are popular and try to make some money off of it, to refining, to following passions. And I've really, I'm really focused on this on this journey, on this specific cards and players that I love watching, or I've loved watching in the past. So for me right now, it's pretty focused. I've got a little bit of prospecting, not too much, but most of my focus right now is on Peyton Manning and Steph Curry cards. Because they're, to me, I think they're undervalued. I love them as players. You can get lost in both of those players because there is so much, the breadth and depth of those two players and the sets and the parallels. It's endless. So I've really focused my energy on that. I focus my energy on Kyler Murray a lot too. I just love him as a player. I watched him at Oklahoma, and I love following him in the NFL. So starting with a guy and following him early in his career, that's something that just back in the day is what I did with rookies. When you were talking about the upper deck and Dikembe Mutombo and Larry Johnson, and Jerry Stackhouse, Allen Iverson, I mean, you name it. Like starting with the rookie class has kind of always been an addiction of mine, other people. So that, and then I've got a lot of love for obviously my wrestling card collection, digging into sets. It's just such an untapped niche of the market that there is a passionate fan base that is connected to it. But there's so many opportunities. I feel like, and I know all you wrestling fans out there and the collectors out there, they can feel it too. It's like we're just getting started there. We are just getting going. So being a part of that, getting that revved up, and we got the Royal Rumble tomorrow, which I know if there's wrestling fans out there, everyone's excited. I got my Royal Rumble t-shirt on right now. So yeah, just if I got passion for it, I'm probably collecting it. But that's kind of where I'm focused in.
Yeah, so you talk about wrestling. Obviously, you're very passionate about it. I recall the yellow, I forget what they're from, but those yellow wrestling cards that have like Hulk Hogan's rookie and Andre the Giant's in them. Those cards have blown up recently. I think they're not as common as the big four sports cards, but they're certainly out there. Talk a little bit, Brett, about scarcity, because in our prior discussions, you've mentioned to me that you like to chase the rare. To you get excited by rare, by scarce items versus things that everyone out there has. Talk a little bit about that and how you kind of approach your singles hunting that way.
Yeah, so like for me professionally, a lot of what I do is study consumer behavior and habits, and leveraging a lot of psychology in that process. And one of the big pieces of human psychology is just scarcity. People want what is limited, and I very much fall into that trap. I want to be curating my collection to look different than the masses. I would say I'm an underground type of guy. I know we'll talk a little bit about music probably later, but I like to search, I like to discover, I like to curate, and I like to be different. I think that's maybe why I've built a cool community with my show, is people look at me as someone who's a little different in the hobby. And so I very much point that at my card collecting too, where I want things that I know not everyone has. So, and you can go 2 layers on this. You can go, all right, well, there's maybe a parallel of Peyton Manning from, in 2003, Topps Finest Gold X-Fractor, and there's 101 of these cards, okay? So maybe I want one of those cards, so I know there's only 101. Well, then you get those cards graded, and then there's maybe only 5 that are PSA 10s. So like that doubling down on the scarcity, I think that's what drives the value up on cards over time. So I'm always looking to, and I heard when you talked about the Basketball Card Fanatic, I'm a big fan of Adam's work. I'm a big fan of that magazine. And when I had him on my show, one of the things that stood out that he said that I still hold with me to this day is that when he buys something, because we all know how expensive these things are these days, but when he buys something, it's gotta really mesh with his head and his heart. And I think that's just, a way of saying it. It's got to be something you're passionate about, and it's got to make financial sense. And so when I'm going out there and trying to narrow in on what I want, that I definitely try to look at that mindset. And I'm usually starting with something with a low population that I'm passionate about, that I think has a high upside down the road.
Yeah, it's a good approach. And it's neat that you mentioned Adam, because he has that same approach, and he's very sort of public about it on Instagram, talking about, he does his top 100 every year, talking about why he likes each card. I really appreciate those posts by people, and I try to do them myself now, where when you show a card, you actually tell a bit of a story about it and show a real appreciation. I think it's easier to do that on cards that aren't super common, maybe because your take is more unique, because not everybody has a take on a rare card. Everybody's got a take on the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie or the 79 O-Pee-Chee Wayne Gretzky rookie. It's very common, but when there's a rare card that you don't see all the time, your take and your story about it, I think it's just the opinion on the card itself is just rare, because there aren't a lot of people talking about them. So that's really cool when people do that and really exploit the rarity of the card.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I know right before we got on, we're talking, and you shared some light on. You gave me a Flames update, and I know that's your squad, and I know, like, probably there's in the hobby community, I know you've probably met plenty of Flames fans and collectors. I certainly haven't, because I'm not into hockey cards like you are, but I think, like, the cool thing about the hobby is, like, we've got our squads, and then we've got our teams, and that you might, as a Flames fan, you might be collecting players within that team over a period of time, and you might go deep in cards that no one else has, and you're curating your collection. And I think you could sit down and show me and tell me the stories of all those cards and why they mean something to you. And I think that's just the special part about what we got going on in this hobby, is everyone's got their personal tastes and opinions, and we can all educate each other on what we've got. Yeah, right on. We're going to get to some of the comments. We've got a lot of people in here, and I see a comment that I messed up the giveaway at the beginning of the episode here. Oh, I apologize to everybody for that, especially you, Victor, at All Time Greats blog. We're going to have to redo the generator. I only had it going from 1 to 10. We have 17 people. So we'll redo that in due course here, guys. But in the meantime, let's say hello to everybody we have, Brett, because there are some. I saw a great question from Name, or a comment about rarity. So let's just go ahead and get in there. We got Mastradamus. Welcome to the show. What is good, my man? Rondell, is always great to see you. Let's start stacking slabs and get ready to rumble. There you go. That's everything, Brett, right there. Jordan Riker's in the house. Good evening, Jordan. Welcome to the show. Corey Card. We got Dennis Lescombe Sr. Bobby Baseball's looking forward to it. Hockey. Welcome. My man, Joe Perot. Let's go. Thank you very much, Bobby Baseball, on 2,000. We're actually almost at 2,100. It's going nice and quick now. So thanks, everybody. Hit SSP entrance music. Yeah, we don't have any entrance music yet. We need some. We got Name, says Jeremy and Brett. I'm here to turn left when the rest of the market is turning right. That sounds like Brett right there. Terry, good evening. Drake's PC, good evening to you. Andy Eisman. Lions just traded Stafford to the Rams for Goff. Wow. Big trade. Big news. Jamie Sands, hello to you. Matt 14K. Good evening. Yannick, welcome. Saturday Night Live in the hobby. There we go. 90s hockey, good evening. We got Corey in the house. Yamax, welcome to the show. Jordan says to both of us, will you be submitting any of your cards to the new grading company, HGA? Brett, what do you have to say to that? Yeah, so I actually, I talk about this on Wednesday's show that's going to drop, but I am typically not an early adopter on new companies and products, but so I will not be right away, but I will suggest, if you're interested, like, we need people to go and support these companies. And so if you are interested, you think the slabs look cool, go support those companies if it aligns up with your strategy. And share your experiences. Tell us if you have a good experience or not, because then it'll get people like me who are kind of stuck in their ways to maybe change and jump in.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Anyone out there who is testing out these new companies, any new company, any new service in the hobby, talk about it. The rest of us want to know. As for myself, I don't know anything about HGA. I've never been to their website. I've never seen a slab. I've only had a couple people ask me if I'm going to use them, and the answer is I don't know yet. Time will tell. I need to see what they're all about, learn a little bit, find out who's grading the cards, what's their experience, what's their resume look like, what put them in a position to be card graders. With CSG hiring two of the, as I understand, two of the top graders away from Beckett, that's a little bit easier for me to use because I know that those guys have many years of grading experience, but I don't know who's at HGA, and I'd need to know a bit about that first. So that's where I stand. Great question, Jordan. Thanks for posing it. We got Luke F73. Good evening to you. Chris Cook wants to know Rumble predictions. That's square in your court, Brett.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this, and when you think about the Rumble, you've always got to think about what's that WrestleMania billboard, and I think an easy billboard to look at right now is Brock Lesnar returning in the Men's Royal Rumble, and him setting up him and Reigns round 3. You got Paul Heyman as the centerpiece of that. That's something a lot of people would want to see him and make for a good billboard. And on the women's side, I think you got Bianca Belair, the EST, her versus Sasha Banks on the other side of that billboard. Those are my predictions. Bianca Belair on the women's, Brock Lesnar on the men's.
There you go, Chris. Half of those names you said were like a foreign language to me, but I recognize Lesnar, that's for sure. All right. Bill says you may have to do it again. Only random 1 to 10. Yeah, I did. So Victor, it's great to have you, my man. I'm sorry that we're going to have to redo the draw. I feel terrible. Yeah, Terry confirms. Chad Shipper, welcome from Florida. Great to have you. Drake says, Brett, what's your Holy Grail wrestling collectible, card, figure, ticket, autograph memorabilia that you want in your personal collection?
Right now, Drake's, it's a great question, and this has my head spinning. So for a while, it was a Bret Hart signed Winged Eagle title. I met Bret Hart and accomplished that. Now, being deep into the card game, I just the Babe Ruth of sports cards or of professional wrestling is Hulk Hogan. So I'd really like to get my hands on a PSA 9 because there's no PSA 10s. They don't exist, which is crazy, of the 82 Hulk Hogan Wrestling All-Star card. That is a grail chase of mine right now.
Cool, man. Do you have any leads?
Maybe a few. Maybe a few.
You got to keep your cards close to the chest sometimes when you're chasing grails, right? You never know. You never know who else is out there trying to snipe you. All right. Another question from Drake. This is a fun one. He says, how do you decide whether to purchase a rookie card or a numbered short print non-rookie card of someone you collect? I got an answer for this, but Brett, do you want to take a shot at this first?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. So I think it just depends on your budget and where you're at. Like Steph Curry, for instance, I'm collecting Steph Curry numbered parallels right now. And I'm doing that because I want to eventually get a numbered rookie card. I don't want to tap into my financial resources right now and just say, oh, I'm going to pull out, thousands and thousands of dollars and grab this card. But what I'm trying to do is work myself, my way up to that. And while you're doing that, I think the fun thing is I've already talked about my appreciation for Steph Curry. I might as well get some cool cards and have them in my possession that I think are going to increase over time. And I can enjoy and have those in my possession, but then at one point get enough of them where I can go trade those in for that rookie card. So that's my strategy with Steph Curry.
Yeah, so I'll take a shot at it for Drake's as well here. For me, it comes down to the fact that I've been a rookie card collector my whole life, so I've got a lot of rookie cards in my collection of important players, to the point that when I started to get when I kind of got to the point where there wasn't much more I coveted. What else? I'm a card collector. I need to be chasing something. I got turned on to the rare insert and parallel, and I kind of just started picking up those cards mostly because I already had the rookie cards that I wanted. And then a year, 2 years go by. There's more rookies that have come into the leagues, and I find myself more interested in their rare pieces than their rookie cards. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it. I'm part of a private chat on Instagram with some guys, and the discussion came up today with these guys about how they'd much rather have a really rare Michael Jordan card from the 90s than the rookie card. But now what kind of the sentiment is, the rookie card has like it's exploded recently to the point now where some of them feel that they waited too long. And now it's like, well, now it's maybe I'll wait for it to come back down. And then you see the comments, but it might not ever come back down. So, it's kind of like I think as Brett said at the beginning, it might depend on your finances, your personal situation. But for me, if the rookie card is abundant, then you might want to prioritize the rare piece and come back to the rookie. But you got to make sure you don't wait too long. Otherwise, what happened to the Jordan rookie could potentially happen to the rookie card of the player that you're looking at. Possibly. All right, let's keep on rolling through. We got Ben Carlos and his awesome YouTube channel. Says, worlds colliding with two of the best hobby podcasts in the game. Thank you so much, Ben Carlos. Check out his YouTube channel. He does great production.
What's up, Ben?
Great production quality there. I know Brett's a big fan. Cardi C Sports, also in the house, also with a great YouTube channel. I'm gonna give him a shout out. He did a recent video on the sort of what's going on with the PSA deal and the fact that there's been some back and forth. And he has a video on his channel, it's not even a week old, that really dives into the details and explains the situation. So if you're wondering what's going on with the PSA takeover buyout by Nat Turner and his investment group, go watch that video. We got Name Those Indigenous Rookie Card. Says, I love the conversation about rarity. Brett has influenced me in the past year in the direction of where my collection is going. More focus for me on lower numbered rookie cards and their parallels. So, yeah, I mean, same here. That's where I'm at. Low numbered rookie cards and their parallel. I think a parallel to a rookie card is almost as good, if not as good, as a rookie card. I recognize that the RC designation does not necessarily belong, but the RY designation certainly belongs. And I think the RY designation is an undervalued designation and underused. Brett, thoughts?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's a great take. I agree completely, 100%.
All right,
that's it. Yeah.
Luke says those wrestling rookie cards with the yellow border are from a trivia game. Okay, yeah, because when I remember seeing them over the years, they were always kind of in a plastic wrapping. They never looked like they came out of anything different. What can you verify that?
Yeah, so those are the 97 wrestling trivia cards with the yellow borders, which the 82, I talked about the Hogan, those were regional, and they came distributed from a magazine. They were also in plastic rack packs too. So it's funny that the hottest cards and wrestling cards right now all have come all together in plastic, and obviously the front and back cards in those sets are condition sensitive and probably aren't the best to get graded. But yeah, it's just funny what the hobby ends up liking.
Yeah. I hear you. And it's sometimes you can predict that. Sometimes you can, but it's often difficult to predict where the hobby as a whole is going to go. And you just sometimes have to go along for the ride and wait till you figure it out. If that's important to you, I'm not saying to follow the consensus or follow the crowd, but if you are wanting to know that when you're going to sell your collection or your single cards down the road, that there's going to be a market for them. I know a lot of people think that way. I do myself. I want to know that if I'm going to buy something for significant dollars, that at some point in the future, if I need to convert that to cash to feed the family, I'm going to have a market for it. Cardi C has a take on rarity. Says, everyone's looking for the next scarce item. Part of the reason you've seen the market go absurd over NBA Top Shot is the manufactured scarcity. We are drawn to scarce items. Yeah, we are drawn to things that other people don't have, can't have, or want to have. Anything to add to that, Brett? I mean, it just seems to be human nature.
No, it is human nature. I like how Cardi C pointed out the manufactured scarcity of the NBA Top Shot product, which I think is manufactured scarcity. Hot take here, but just be careful on that product. I'm not saying don't go buy it, but just look at what's happening. Follow who's buying it. Look at what people are saying. Just be careful, because it's the trend right now, but it might not be the trend tomorrow.
That's a fair comment. In my after hour show today, when we're done, when Brett is done with us here, so in a couple of hours time, we're going to bring on Chris from Vegas Find 777. He's an early adopter of NBA Top Shot and a big fan of it. So we'll hear his take and his position on it. I'm looking forward to having that discussion. But, manufactured scarcity is something that's really been around in the hobby since the first serially numbered cards came out, the first chase cards in a way. And even going back further, the first, when there were the send away premiums and they'd short print one card that you send in, I'm talking about in the 20s. Not the 2020s, the 1920s. There was manufactured scarcity back then, but it really became abundant in the 90s with the advent of the serially numbered insert card. And for a while there was some of the real veterans of the hobby kind of much preferred the organic rarity, the natural rarity versus the manufactured scarcity. And I think some of them are starting to come around and realize, especially with these big sales at the auction houses for 1 of 1s and 1 of 23 selling for $2 million, that manufactured scarcity is actually something that does drive value in a real way. So, but Top Shot's different. It's a different market, a different hobby altogether. It's more crypto than it is sports cards. Do you agree with that, Brett?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with it. And my just one concern with it is that you've got people like VegasDave talking about the sports card market is going down and it's going to implode on its face. But if you look at the trends over sports cards over the period of time, it is a collectible that has sustained itself. So I would just personally here, I'd very much rather put my money in something like sports cards that is a viable collectible that has been proven over extended period of time than video clips.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Facebook user, did someone say wrestling cards? Yes, someone did. Victor, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I feel terrible. Steve Sir, good evening to you. Anonymous Facebook user, hello. Josh Packham, good evening to you. Luke says Rams gave up 2 first-rounders too, so that seems like a reach for Stafford. That's a big give. Yamwax, fair number of wrestling cards or game cards, more wrestling card information. Card EC, Luke. All right, I'm sorry, guys. I can't help myself but look at these comments. Bobby Burrell, good evening to you. Slam that like button. I appreciate that. Bobby, the big unit, says if HGA Grading Company can meet their turnaround times, they will grab market share. Yeah, quite possibly. Cardi C says, isn't HGA marketing themselves as the first fully automated grading company? I'd be interested to see someone crack some slabs and test out where they end up. That'd be interesting. I'm sure somebody out there will do that as well. So look forward to hearing about that. Hockey says, is the WWF 1987 Topps Peachy considered junk wax? Bret Hart's rookie card is in that set and is my favorite wrestler of all time. Brett, would you consider that 87 Topps Peachy to be junk wax?
I love that set, actually. I think it's fantastic. So it's personal taste. And what I will say with wrestling cards, the opportunity with grading and the scarcity within grading is tremendous right now. So I think anything vintage wrestling related with iconic wrestlers like a Bret Hart, guys that trans the sport, like Bret Hart has a massive market in Europe. He was a massive draw in Europe. He's a guy in that card. You go look at the pop report on PSA or BGS, see where it's at. Over time, the legend of a guy like Bret Hart is going to extend. And I think grading in those sets that might not seem like they're scarce sets right now, there might be an angle there. Yeah,
good stuff, man. Good stuff. Hockey wants to know from you, Brett, what's your favorite Ja Morant card?
Oh man, so I'm out on Ja Morant right now. I sold all my Ja Morant at the beginning of the season before he got hurt because I wanted to fund Peyton Manning collection. So I don't have a favorite right now because I don't have any. I love Ja Morant as a player though.
So he was like the first athlete that you really researched in terms of cards, and you've moved on. And that's the one thing about this hobby is that we all evolve over time, and that could be day by day, week to week, month by month, year to year, decade by decade. It doesn't matter. We're always kind of moving forward, finding out, learning new things. As we learn in the hobby, there's so much information out there. It's in your best interest, I believe, to consume as much as you can so that you can really almost accelerate your way through to where you will ultimately get to in terms of your collecting style, and just find your way there so that you can, kind of maybe avoid making some mistakes that other people have made along the way. So it's interesting. And I find it's happening with me too, and I know people out there, we're always kind of progressing how we're approaching and what we're collecting within the hobby. So good stuff. I'm actually glad to hear that, Brett. Corey Carr says, how much would you how much would a card have to be selling for as a PSA 10 before you'll send it into PSA 10 on expedited service? I mean, it depends on the rates, but more money than less, I would say. I'm going to throw out $5,000, but I don't know. Could be less. You got a take on that, Brett?
It just varies per card. That's a loaded question. I think it just varies. There's so many variables. It just, yeah.
Yeah, it depends what you're doing with it. Is it for your personal collection, or is it something you need to flip, or you're going to be selling? If it's for your personal collection, I'm willing to wait as long as I have to, because I'm just patient that way. Peeps, good evening to you. Great to have you. Kickdown says, we've seen WWE bring in and collaborate with many athletes famous outside of wrestling. Any athletes on your wish list to get into the squared circle, Brett?
I think just like most people right now, and I know he just last image of us seeing him was face down on the octagon mat, but I mean, who wouldn't want to see Conor McGregor in a WWE ring? I know I would.
Yeah, for sure. Card collector, good evening to you. Fire Sports, looking forward to another great show. Thank you so much. And here's the question of the night for you, Brett. Name wants to know, have you picked up any hockey cards yet?
I love watching names collecting. I love being educated by name. I have yet to pick up. I'm really about a connection, and I watch hockey in the playoffs, but I don't have that connection, so I have not bought any hockey cards yet, name. But I'm not closing the door on it.
Right on. Yeah, no doors closing. No doors closing. Jason Pringle, good evening. Hope you're still around. Peep says cards that came in the Question of Sport game include some greats like Greg LeMond and Mike Tyson. We got Vegas Finds in the house, 777. Again, my guest on After Hours later on tonight. Joe Perot says hello to Brett from a fellow Curry collector. It was all class for Reggie Miller to congratulate Steph after moving into spot number 2. What are some of Brett's favorite Curry holdings in his collection?
I love the Reggie Miller call out, and I have, after that all happened, I didn't realize this, but in my subconscious, I have been attracted to Steph Curry because of my fandom for Reggie Miller. So that's cool. Like, I had that realization after he passed him. I've got a lot of what I have on the Curry side right now are numbered parallels within the Select and Prizm, in the Select and Prizm products. And what I'm trying to do is blues and whites in Prizm and Select from 2012, where he started, to current day. So that's kind of the collecting journey I'm on right now with Steph Curry.
All right, there you go, Joe. Justin Bode, welcome, says cheese. I'm not sure what's in reference to, but it makes me smile. Cheese to you too, Justin Bode. Yam says wrestling is so good at entering the culture. My third grader shouts John Cena when he wins at things. That's hilarious, Yam. Hilarious. From an anonymous Facebook user, question for our special guest. What is your number one investment card?
To be honest with you, I look at it as probably Peyton Manning right now. It makes so much sense because he's my favorite athlete of all time. I think there's so much room to grow if you look at his body of work, if you look at his likability, if you look at his relevancy within culture. So to me, the safest possible move and the most fun I can possibly have, because he's my favorite athlete of all time, is put the money into buying cool Peyton Manning cards.
Yeah, right. I've seen some beauties sell recently. His credentials rookie, there was a couple that just sold for well into the 5 figures, a PSA 8 and a 9 or a 9 and a 10. And or whatever they're BGS, whichever they were, beautiful cards. So cool. I'd love to have one, but very, very, very expensive. On a big hit to the wallet for sure. Steve says, I've got a bunch of cards I've been so hesitant to grade, and I just don't know why. Well, it could be wait times, could be cost. There's a few reasons to maybe, to take your time and make that decision, or figure out exactly which cards you do want to get graded. But eventually I'll be. I got about 300 waiting to go too, and it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. Prizm is the bomb, I believe. Yeah. Oh, Darcy, my man Darcy on Facebook. Welcome, Darcy. All right. So here's a couple of things that I wanted to do with you tonight, Brett. I really like on Instagram how you post a daily post, and you basically call it your daily reflections, where you just kind of provide advice to the community. a thought, something to marinate on throughout the day, and to just see if and I think the thing with some of these things that you post is that some of them are going to resonate with some people, some with other people, none with some, all with some, however that all works out. But, and myself, as someone who follows you on Instagram, I read these things every day. Some of them I'm like, oh, he nailed it. That one, that resonates with me. And some of them I'm like, it's not maybe for me, but I'm sure it's for somebody, and that's awesome. So I've actually saved, I actually kind of went and printed a bunch of them. Well, I saved a bunch of them, and I wanted to kind of touch on some of them here and just kind of get you to talk and share them with the audience, because they're just, some of them are really insightful, and I think they're important, and they kind of can help ground you within this hobby that has so much stimuli coming at us from every direction, especially because we're also interested in, I don't know about everyone out there, but I know about myself. I'm always hobbying. I'm hobbying, 80% of the time of my waking hours, I'm hobbying one way or another. So I figured that would be something that we could share with people. And it really, it also just shares or expresses, Brett, who you are and what you're trying to bring to the hobby through your podcast and your online presence. So we'll get to some of those. I do have them teed up and ready to go. I'm just looking at kind of in terms of discussing your podcast, Stacking Slabs. You mentioned earlier that you study markets for a living, and I find that really, very interesting, because markets are interesting, and human behavior is interesting, especially in groups, and groupthink becomes an issue within the hobby on a regular basis, usually led by influencers and that. But how have you found that you've been able to use your professional skills in branding and studying markets to make your podcast what it is, and really put you in the position as a leader within the hobby?
Yeah, so I think a big part about it is like so much of the hobby, and so much I like to do this. Everyone likes to do this. Everyone wants to show their cards and share their takes and talk about what they're doing and this and that. But I think if you just take some time and reverse that and about the hobby first before you think about yourself, I think that starts to get really interesting with the content that you're creating and the way you think about delivering posts, engaging with people in the hobby. And so I really look at it from that lens, and that's what I'm constantly trying to do when I'm creating content and when I'm building brand. And I view that as building brand. I think there's so many companies that are forming in the hobby, which is so awesome. There's so many new people coming in the hobby, which is so awesome. But I think if people took a step back and really thought about the audience that they're trying to serve and what they care about, and be active in those communities and learn one-to-one with them, you'll really put yourself and put the hobby in a better position. So that you open up your phone, you've got Instagram, you got the opportunity to connect with hundreds of other people that are in similar positions to you. So learning from others and sharing that information, that's my approach, and that's what I like to do. And I just think that's good operating and good brand building.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. Okay, let's bring on one of these daily insights that you've shared. So I'm going to bring it on right now. So I'm just going to read it aloud. I know everyone's kind of reading it. Different opinions, different mindsets. These competing thoughts make this hobby move, but sometimes we become a collective. There are moments when we all rally, stand up for common belief, always unite when it means protecting what you love. So, there's a lot of lines in this message, but can you summarize kind of what were you thinking when you came up with this one?
So this is a response to VegasDave. Straight up. And I put this together because I was so impressed by the reaction of the hobby when he put his posts out. He put his posts out to get attention, to get people talk about him and have the focus on him. I think the response of the collective of the community was to protect the hobby and protect the sanctity of the hobby. And that's why I put the post together. And I thought it was cool. And to me, it made me feel really good, and it made me feel like I was a part of something really important, where it felt like digitally I could turn over my shoulders and everyone around me felt the same way as I felt.
Yeah, you nailed it at the, different opinions, we're all different in this thing, yet we all have a common kind of goal, if you will, and that's the health of the hobby. And when someone's going to come out there and kind of threaten that, that's when we can get together and stand up for it. So yeah, well said. All right. Let's move on to another one of these things, one of these daily insights that you put out there. So this one says, sometimes the greatest investments can be purchased at an all-time high. It's not always about getting ahead of everyone else. It can be about having the brass to buy high because you have a deep understanding of consumer interest. The Legends game is amazing. So was this in response to anything in particular, or was this more of just a daily thought?
I think it's a gamble with prospecting, and everyone wants to gamble and try to get ahead and make 3x, 5x, 4x, whatever, buy low, sell high. I think if you look at websites and look at the hobby headlines, I'm a Card Ladder user and I get in Card Ladder every day, and undeniably the biggest change that is happening in the market are happening with Legends cards. Well, what happens is someone decides, hey, there's this LeBron James card, and last time it sold for $2,000. Now I have the opportunity to buy it for $5,000, and they buy it for $5,000 because they know I'm going to keep that card. It's a good investment, and I think 2-3 years I can sell this card for $20,000. So I think, to me, you should never be scared of buying high if you have a belief that that card will continue to gain value, or if you're a collector and you just want to keep that card forever and you don't think you can find it again.
Yeah, man. Well said. And that's a position that I resonates deeply with me, because I've said before on the show that, sometimes you want to buy a card, you have to, I've called it overpaying, and it's not necessarily overpaying, but it is paying more than has ever been paid before for a card. But let's face it, if that wasn't happening daily, prices would never go up, right? Anytime we hear about these record breakers, it's because somebody felt that if they bought it now, the value on it could increase down the road. We're talking like investment mindset for the most part. The collector mindset's a little bit different in that, you may not want to break the record when you're buying a card for your collection. It depends where you land on that collector investor dichotomy on the spectrum, right? But if you're collecting, you just need to fill a hole in your binder page, then you may not want to be breaking records. But if we're talking about rare, valuable, highly pursued cards, sometimes the only way to get them is to overpay. I've done it on a couple of occasions knowingly, and you kind of do take a deep breath. Okay, is this going to be the highest ever paid, like from in the past and in the future, or am I actually making an astute purchase? And I've been fortunate that when I've done it, it's worked out for me. But I mean, these things have worked out for a lot of people in the last year. I'm certainly no genius for doing it.
Yeah, and I would say on that, Jimmy, is for the audience out there, if you're going to buy at an all-time high, it is much safer to do that on someone who is proven. And when I mean proven, I'm talking about they have championships. I'm talking about Hall of Fame ready, or they're in the Hall of Fame. Like, it is way safer to buy at an all-time high when the talent is proven. So that's a good clarifier there.
For sure. Yeah. When I'm talking about my example, the one that pops into my mind is a Michael Jordan card. So obviously it doesn't get any better than that in terms of GOAT status and longevity in the hobby and investment value. I'll use the investment value term there as well. But for me, it's collector value too. Like I love the darn card and I don't plan to ever sell it. So yeah, let's see what Yam just dropped in a comment here. He says, I've done better on overpays than most value plays. Yeah, see, that's right. If you're overpaying, it's because other people bid you up. That means there's a demand for it. So, it's always interesting. After an overpay, it's good to look and see how many unique bidders, if it's an eBay auction, how many unique bidders kind of bid in the same neighborhood that you were in. If you win a card, I'm going to use a big number. If you win a card for $22,000, and the last one sold for under 15, let's say, how many other people bid from say 18 to 21.5 or whatever? Are there 4 or 5 other people? Because if there are, they're not out of play anymore. You might be out of play because you got your copy, but there's still 4 or 5 that are going to battle it out next time. And the new comp is now that 22 or whatever I said. So they may be willing to pay a bit more. So it's gonna keep going. When I've overpaid for a card, I've gained comfort in looking at the bidders and seeing when there's a lot of unique bidders that are close to me within that range. because you know that they're going to be out there fighting and they'll drive up the next comps, which makes you feel better about your investment. Fair?
Yeah, I think just on that point, there's been 3 drops of Peyton Manning scarce cards. You talked about the essential credentials. There's been a lot of really good Peyton stuff that collector has and is phasing them out on PWCC. And I have been actively engaged in all 3 of these drops, and I've gone 0 for 10 on these cards within these drops that I've wanted, bid it out at the end. And to me, it sucks that I didn't get any of the cards I wanted. But on the flip side, it helps validate the interest in the Peyton Manning market and my collection. So I have more confidence than ever with buying his cards in the future, just based on how competitive those auctions that I lost were.
Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking too. So Peep says, folks that thought they overpaid a year ago probably aren't unhappy right now. And that is kind of true across the board right now. So definitely appreciate that, Joe, dropping knowledge on a Saturday night. Very, very hope it's knowledge. Hope you guys consider it to be valuable to all of you. Yam asked this question a few minutes ago, Brett. Which athlete would you love to interview on your podcast?
It would have to be Peyton. I'd have trouble gathering myself for that conversation because I missed like maybe 2 Peyton Manning home games in his entire career. He is my everything as an athlete. I watched his whole career, so I put him on a high pedestal. But man, I'd love to talk with him about his cards and the impact. And I probably stumble over my words quite often, but if I had one athlete, it would be number 18.
All right, there you go, Yam. Let's now go back. We were talking about, there was a question that we responded to earlier, Brett. It was about buying a player's rookie card or their shiny inserts and parallels. Well, let's bring this daily reflection of yours up onto the screen. You say, don't avoid a Legends market if their rookie card is out of reach for you. The benefit of blue chip status is the myriad of entry points that can all sustain growth because of their collectability. Shiny and numbered is always a good place to start. So, you said it right there, and a little bit of a different angle, because here what we're saying is, okay, if the Legends rookie card is out of reach for you, there's other entry points available. So, to me, that makes perfect sense, especially in the land of Michael Jordan right now. And I mean, all of his cards are not inexpensive, but if you had your eyes on his rookie card, that thing has gone up 10x in the last year at whatever grade point. So those may be out of reach for you. If you wanted a PSA 8 or PSA 9, now you may be in PSA 2, 3, 4 kind of land in terms of being able to afford one within your budget. But there's other cards that you can still get and enjoy. The problem with that, though, Brett, that I see is that people want the rookie. It's like they want the rookie first, or they want the rookie at some point. So how do you switch from coveting that rookie card to coveting a non-rookie year shiny numbered card that is still going to be, maybe Michael Jordan isn't the right guy to talk about this in context because his cards are all so expensive. They're out of many people's affordability range. So maybe I just won't go down that road in terms of Michael Jordan, but can you explain do you have any examples or any case studies on where this actually worked for you, or even a friend of yours, someone that was looking at a certain player and they ended up going with a really cool shiny insert or parallel?
Yeah. So I think this might sound completely bombastic, and I don't mean it to, but I think the way the rookie card perception has always been is changing and evolving. And I think rookie cards will always be the number one. However, go study and look at what's happening with LeBron James cards. Go study and look at what's happening with Kobe Bryant cards. Go study and look what's happening with Tom Brady cards. Their cards in sets that matter. I'm talking Topps Chrome. I'm talking Prism. The parallels within those sets are becoming iconic because you have people that are entering the hobby when those sets were the first sets to market. So I think the way collecting from rookie cards to rare and scarce parallels is changing quite drastically. This is something that I picked up on some collectors that I hang out with in Peyton Manning collectors. One guy specifically, Kevin Randall. He goes by DeCaptain37 on Instagram. Fantastic Brady, fantastic Mahomes, fantastic Manning collector. And he's really educated me on just digging into Topps Chrome sets, the rare and scarce, because if you go in and you go and say, okay, Peyton Manning, 2006, he won a Super Bowl with the Colts. Go look at his Topps Chrome black parallel. There's 149, let's say. Well, maybe there's only 10 that are graded, and maybe only 2 of those are PSA 10s. Now, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, you don't think someone's going to want one of those cards if there's only 2 of them from the year he won the Super Bowl. So I think it's just educating yourself on what the market wants. And I think what we're seeing is that the market isn't just focused on rookie cards. Go look at Card Ladder Hobby headlines every day. The cards that are moving aren't just rookie cards. And so I'm just studying and seeing what's happening. And I think it's fun, and it gives you more opportunities to dig into cards outside of just rookies.
Yeah, no, good stuff, man. I'm gonna provide the hockey angle for those of you out there that are hockey collectors. I know there's a bunch of you, and I'm sure this can be transferred to the other sports too. But if you think about young guns in hockey, and they've been blowing up lately, especially in the PSA 10, BGS 9.5 holders, they're available any day of the week in quantity on eBay, and they are getting big money. Like a PSA 10 Connor McDavid is now like, say, $3,000 just to pick it. It's probably not exact, just to pick a number. But he has other rookie cards that are more rare, that are serially numbered, that just don't get the respect. The Fleer Ultra, I believe it's out of $599 or $699, one of the two. $599 or $699. I mean, you can almost find that many of his young gun on eBay at any given time, and the card will sell for a fraction of the price. So if you're newer in the hobby and you feel like you're getting priced out of the commodity rookie card, whether it be the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan, or the Topps Chrome Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, or the Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews or Alexis Lafreniere, there's going to be other rookie cards that are going to come out in lower end or lower priced products that are going to have serial numbers on them. And the young guns don't. The Topps Chromes don't, except for that 1 year with Steph Curry, I believe. But otherwise, they don't have numbers on them. So, there are some good opportunities out there. We've talked about the Fleer Ultras on the show before. And I mean, for hockey, for the guys from 2015 forward, where there was a Fleer product, I think that those are some awesome value buys relative to the young gun. With Sidney Crosby, his young gun is a monster card now, but he's got an Artifacts rookie out of 750 that people don't even pay attention to. A Trilogy rookie out of 999. Jump in, Brett.
Yeah, I think I just want to respond to this because it's an observation and it's something I've been forming over time. And my knowledge with hockey cards specifically is very small, but I think people like you and I watch the communities of hockey collectors. It reminds me, it's bigger, but it reminds me of what's going on with wrestling card collectors in the community. It's very strong, very powerful, very passionate. And I think anytime you have those P's all together, like that means a market that you should feel very comfortable with getting in. You can go down the parallels, the rare and scarce, this and that. But I think that's been my observation with the hockey card community, is that what I know is the wrestling card community, and I draw parallels between the two of them.
Yeah, I think some of the similarities are we're a smaller market, or at least a perceived to be small. I mean, the hockey card community is huge. It's just we're sort of segregated, most of us, up in Canada, but there's plenty. And my viewer demographics is well more in the United States than it is in Canada. Yet I'm in Canada. I'm kind of known for being a hockey guy. I consider myself an all sport guy, but I'm certainly more on the hockey side if I had to lean one way. So, but even still, we're a bit of a smaller community. We maybe feel like a bit of an underdog compared to the basketball, football, baseball. And I wonder if that's kind of how wrestling is feeling, but even to a larger extent.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Exact same way. Definitely. Hockey is certainly bigger than the wrestling community, but I don't look at the wrestling card community and say, okay, if we keep doing this, one day we're going to be up like basketball card community. I don't think that, but I think aspirationally, like we can unite and maybe one day be like the hockey community. That's kind of how I see it.
So that's a mind just that blows my mind blower, because I've never heard a sports card segment or niche say that we just want to get to be like hockey, right? It's always we want to get to be like basketball sort of thing. So hey man, we're honored by that.
Look at the Gretzky card. I mean, it's undeniable. You've got that piece right now. That you've got that piece. That man. That card in and of itself. It's iconic, and the opportunities that can come just from that card alone is tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, that card is, I forget if it's the 5th or the 7th most expensive card ever sold. Is ignoring multiples of Honus and Mickey Mantle and all that. So yeah. All right, a couple more comments. We got Josh Jerez in the house. Good evening to you. Peeps reminds everyone to hit the thumbs up. Cardboard Max, good evening to you. Kickdown was happy to read that Leverrett's surgery was successful. Pacers have a great young crew. Even rookie card inserts, Kickdown says, even rookie card inserts can be completely forgotten about. Curry stargazing comes to mind. Hobby has big tunnel vision on base rookies. I agree with that. However, I will say that I'm noticing the hobby is now looking away from that commodity card and looking to those other rookie year cards. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Just because you don't get the RC designation next to the card's name doesn't mean that a card from the player's rookie year is any less. It doesn't have to mean that card is any less important. And some of them are way nicer than any of the rookie cards that are out there anyway. I mean, it just goes to, it's just the way it is. You look at some of these cards that are inserts and they put more, it's almost like the designers at Arena Design back in the Fleer days, the Fleer Skybox days, they put more creativity into these inserts because they had to think outside the box than they did into the base cards. And I'm kind of just, making this up as I go along. This is a hot take because it's brand new in my head, but I think it makes sense. Brett, am I out to lunch here? Is that kind of...
No, I think it definitely makes sense to me. And I think one thing that just in that example that you called out that I think is hurting in the hobby right now is just the competition. And I think the competition on the design in that era of, trying to best the other brand on creating the cooler inserts, that made inserts more valuable today. Like look at the Jordan stuff. And I the one fear I have with just inserts in general in this Panini era we're in is that you can't even compare what we're seeing now to what came out in the 90s. And I would just, because there's a lack of competition, I would just be a little careful with the way you're collecting and investing from a long-term perspective when it comes to the insert side. Who knows? It could change, but I just don't think the inserts are as cool as they were back then.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're trying. Panini's done some nice inserts. You got the color blast. You've got the downtowns. You got the kabooms. These are things have gained legendary iconic status hobby wise now. But the 90s, that's where those are the originals, and there's something to be said for that. And I love them. So, but I also like some of the retro tributes that have been coming out in the 20 teens here, especially in Fleer products. Please. Yeah, and I think with like the color blast and the kabooms, I almost don't even view those as like inserts. They're almost pieces of art. They're like in another category. I mean, look at what the Kobe kaboom's doing right now. Like that's just not normal. That's those cards aren't normal. And how scarce those are, and just one per case, and those are beautiful cards. I got asked by someone the other week, what's my favorite insert type, and I had the caveat of saying, well, it's almost what's my favorite piece of art right now, and that's the color blast. And if you go look on eBay, and I don't care who the player is, you go try to buy a color blast card, like you're spending an arm and a leg. So I think there's just different levels of inserts, and you just gotta, when you're talking about it, that's how I view it. Yeah. Oh, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. All right, we'll get to some more comments here. We're 10 minutes behind on them, guys, so apologize for the staggering, but here we go. Bobby Baseball said, what do you think is a better investment for the same total amount of money on one card type, low grades or high grades? I understand the question, and I'm going to go with the high grade. I think from an investment perspective, you're always better off to purchase the most expensive card you can afford. And we've got case studies that'll support that. Just look at Michael Jordan, buy one PSA 10 a few years ago or buy 5 PSA 9s. I think you're still going to be better off. Yeah, you're still better off with the PSA 10. Brett, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's amazing just in the last 10 to 12 months, just what has happened with just the interest on the PSA 10 card. That is the standard right now. So for me, I'd rather have one PSA 10 than a few PSA 9s on anything.
Yeah, good stuff. Chris Cook, what's a bigger mindset shift, PSA 10 to PSA 9 or rookie card to 9RC rare scarce? I'm going to go with the latter. I think moving from rookie card to non-rookie card is a bigger mindset shift than going from PSA 10 to PSA 9. And the reason for me is that PSA 9s are darn welcome in my personal collection. Back in the 80s and early 90s, all we cared about was mint condition. If a PSA 9 is mint condition, gem mint is just like a bonus. So your thoughts on that, Brett?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I want to take the contrarian view on this, but I mean, I agree with your take on that. I've got nothing to add.
Yeah, no, and it's tough to go contrarian because it kind of is the contrarian. It's the contrarian mindset shift to go from rookie to non-RC, which is why it's the bigger one, right? So yeah. Cardboard Max says, damn right, pop reports matter. Pop reports matter. Pop ones matter. Yeah, I agree, because as far as commodity cards go, if they're low pop at high grades, that is still scarce in that grade. Doesn't mean the card is scarce. It's not. But the card is scarce in that grade. Vegas Fine says, what about Sidney Crosby's foil McDonald's rookie? Looks nice. I agree. Brett, if you're not familiar with this card, are you familiar with this card?
I'm not now.
So in Canada, in around 2005, 2006, there was a McDonald's was doing hockey cards, and they did a set, and they had Sidney Crosby in the set, and it was only distributed at the restaurants. So and it wasn't available in the US, I don't believe. And there was a rule against rookie card designation being awarded to cards that are not really pack pulled. And Beckett made the call 15 years ago now and said, we're going to give it the RC designation. So it actually carries it according to Beckett. And therefore, the hobbies accepted it as such. Maybe not everybody, but generally it's been accepted. And it's one of those cards where it's kind of the lowest end Crosby rookie, but it's far from the ugliest, in my opinion. It's actually a pretty cool looking card.
I love stuff like that. That sounds like Yamwax territory, the way he collects the stuff like that. I love stuff like that because it's like no one's really looking at it yet, and you can be the first one to grab it and start talking about it. I think that's cool.
Yeah. So by the time we get to about 3 comments from now, Yamwax will already have bought a copy of this on eBay, and it'll show up on his Instagram account in about a week from now. So Yam, sorry to distract you from your eBay searches right now. Apologize for that. We got ZS420 says, when it was just hockey collectors buying hockey cards, Young Guns reigned supreme, but new eyes will value things for different reasons. Maybe. I 100% agree with that, Zed, because I've been saying to Upper Deck now for a good year, you got to bring that Fleer brand back, because the Fleer brand is what's recognizable outside of the hockey niche, outside of us, outside of the hockey collectors, basketball collectors, football, baseball, they all know Fleer. They all love Fleer. And there's a lot of nostalgia around the Fleer brand, especially because all those awesome cards from the 90s were Fleer cards. So I believe that a lot of these new collectors coming over to hockey or dipping their toes in the hockey market will buy what they're somewhat familiar with. And I think that's Fleer and Skybox. We do have a Skybox product coming out in April, Skybox Metal Universe, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. But I think you're onto something there, Zed. I agree. Brett, you got something to add?
Yeah, so I'll just on that. For the powers that be, for someone who is not collecting hockey, if you want to get our attention, you're releasing Flair Ultra, you're releasing Flair in the nostalgia packaging that we knew growing up. That will get my attention, and that would get me to dip my toe into that market.
Yeah, 100%. So if you guys look on the ticker right now at the upcoming guests I have for episodes showing up right now, February 20th, Mike Phillips from Upper Deck is joining, and he's someone that has some influence when it comes to these things. So we will be talking to him and expressing our desires as collectors as to what we want to see, because sometimes the card companies, they listen to the distributors, and the distributors, listen to the retailers, and the retailers are the ones that are listening to the customers. But I believe that there's a gap there, and I believe that there's a gap in that they shouldn't really be looking to the distributors right now, because what was the case in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 is no longer the case. The hobby has changed drastically, and my understanding is the distributors say, well, Fleer products don't sell in hockey. They just sit there. They sit there. Well, that's no longer going to be the case. Mark my words. It's just the world. The hobby's a different landscape right now. All right. Ben Carlo says, Brett, how do you feel about AEW all-in cards if wrestling cards start to pop off and AEW does the unthinkable and surpasses WWE?
I will tell you, Ben, I have an entire set of the all-in cards in Card Saver 1s right now, getting ready to go to PSA. I'm a massive AEW fan, been a fan since the jump. Been to several pay-per-views. It is I watch everything, but that is my centerpiece product right now. So there's a lot of people in my age demo that are feeling the same way I feel about the AEW product. I'm excited for Upper Deck to be releasing the AEW cards this year. But I think if you look at the 97 Cardinal and the Stone Cold rookie, and you look at the 82, 83 All-Stars of the wrestling, like there's going to be a growing population around these AEW cards, and those all-in cards are going to be the first. I mean, you've got the MJF rookie in there. There's just a lot of good stuff. So I'm a big fan of those cards. Don't tell anybody.
Too late, buddy. Too late. Yamwax jumps in with a good question. Brett, if you could have one premier rookie card of a modern NFL player, which do you go with?
Oh, this is a good one. Modern NFL player, premier rookie card, Mahomes. I mean, it's unlike so many other people felt like they missed the boat on Mahomes, and my style is if I stop everything what I'm doing and turn on the TV and to watch them play, and Mahomes is one of those players, so I'd have to go Patrick Mahomes. I know that's like the easy answer, but he's the answer for me.
He's I mean, you didn't ask me, but I'm going the same direction as Brett there. It's kind of an easy answer right now. And that's one of the things about this Super Bowl coming up. It seems to be a real symbolic Super Bowl, like the passing of the torch type of thing. Old GOAT, next GOAT, potentially. I think it's pretty cool that that's the way the Super Bowl worked out. It's nice that it's going to happen in Tampa Bay, where Brady is, the team he's playing with now. So that's pretty neat. And I don't have a horse in this race at all. I got a couple Brady cards. I don't have any Mahomes cards. But I want to see Mahomes win it. I want to see that transition from old GOAT to new GOAT or next GOAT potentially, and see where the future goes from there. I think that would be just a neat moment in history for the NFL as the years go by from here. All right, guys, we're going to go through a few more of the comments. We'll get to some more of Brett's daily reflections as well. I want to bring up a few more of those that are awesome. Ray-Ban, good evening to you. Welcome to the show. Canner Collect is going to snap into a Slim Jim. Good evening to you. Joe wants to know, how does Brett feel about auto and jersey cards? Most of his collecting has resisted following the masses with rookie card obsession. My best Peyton Manning holding is a 1 of 3 triple threads. Sweet issue. What are your thoughts on that, Brett?
I love jersey patch auto cards. Rookie RPAs, they're just so darn expensive. So it's just, to me, that's not my typical entry point, but I think they're great cards. I would say, like, for me personally, if I'm going to go get those cards, I want them to be in the sets that I think are the most significant to the hobby. So it's like, I know it's expensive, but like National Treasures, like that's where I'm immaculate. Like those types of sets are typically where I'm applying. If I'm spending my money, I'm trying to work myself up to those cards. But great cards. I think a big piece is game worn versus, if you can get game worn, like that's a whole nother conversation. But good cards, and if you like collecting them, collect them.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take a stab at it too, though. Brett and Joe, for me, when it comes to rookie cards, I don't really want anything on that card except for the card itself, maybe a serial number personally. And now I'm more into the shiny inserts and parallels that don't have autographs or jersey pieces on them. All that said, there are some extremely, I'm also all about important cards, iconic hobby cards. like Michael Jordan's first autograph or his first autograph jersey, Wayne Gretzky's first autograph jersey. Those to me are super important. But in hockey, we've seen like SPX, the SPX brand, Brett. It's got a jersey, it's got an autograph, but not my favorite look for a card. So, that's kind of where I'm at with those. But thanks for that question, Joe. Cardboard Max says 90s inserts rule, and inserts now have parallels that make them way less cool. See, that's
a good one,
right? Because inserts are awesome, but as soon as you parallel the insert,
yeah,
the less rare insert isn't. Now you want the rarer one. That's what I find where I find my desires going. How about you?
I agree. Like you look at like an insert that I enjoy. I'm not a big fan of this product necessarily, but an insert I enjoy is like the My House from Optic. But then like I started to enjoy it way less when I started to understand that there were like 20 different, maybe that's drastic, but 12 different variations of the My House card. I was like, that just takes the fun away from it for me.
Yeah, at that point, I want the rarest of the parallels. But if that rarest of the parallels is out of 1, 3, or 5, and it's 1, 3, or 5x the regular parallel in terms of cost, I kind of maybe shy away altogether, or I go for the rainbow, if you will. Potentially, it depends on the card and the player and the looks as well, right? It's got the aesthetics have to be there. In like 99.9% of my pickups, aesthetics is the most important thing after player portrayed. Yeah. Thank you for this anonymous Facebook user. Happy to be one of your 2 favorite hobby people sharing the screen with Brett. Canner says case hits from 90s football and baseball are a fraction of basketball. Yeah, PMGs especially. Although I'm noticing those football, the big football guys, the Barry Sanders, the Jerry Rice, the Brett Favres, their PMGs are the Dan Marinos, John Elways. They're not slouch cards. Those cards are getting respect. They're not getting Michael Jordan respect, but who really does? Jerry Rice is now kind of selling at that same level as the Scottie Pippen would be, that kind of thing. So it's actually maybe becoming more equitable. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, and I think it's all just a reflection of Jordan. Like it's because all the attention was on that card, and then everyone saw or noticed how cool those cards were that they started to look in other avenues, and then obviously football is an avenue, and then they say, well, if I'm going to look in football, let me look at the iconic players during that. So I think those prices are driving up. So I think if you're looking to get those cards now, the ship is for an affordable price. The ship is kind of sailed, but. Michael, it's funny how much impact Michael Jordan has on everything.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I skipped a few comments I'm going to move back to here. Victor says, I love rookie inserts, but we have to call them what they are: rookie year, rookie parallel, etc. I agree. Victor, I'd love to see the RY designation earn respect in the hobby and earn a place in the hobby where it's being used, because RY tells you that a card is from the rookie year, not necessarily a rookie card, but a rookie year card. And rookie year cards to me are very important. They're significant. That's their rookie year. That's the youngest you're ever going to see a player look on a card. So I want to see that gain more respect in the hobby. Zed says, new creative directors, please, Panini, which ties into Michael Ham's comment right here. Panini plays out an insert. They need to keep them rare, not put them in every product. See, this discussion came up a long time ago, and I misunderstood the discussion. I'm talking a couple months ago on the show, but I'm understanding it now, and I'm agreeing that, it's one thing to put the same insert in the same brand year after year, maybe change the design a little bit. I'm okay with that. You build equity in the insert brand that way. But if you're taking that insert and you're putting it in every different product, yeah, that's where I think we need to get a little bit more creative and come up with new concepts that fit in with the brand itself. Because each brand, but whether it's Panini Upper Deck, Topps, or Leaf, they all have their own kind of flavor, and you want the inserts to reflect that. Or take a complete left-hand turn, don't reflect it, but over time become kind of associated with that brand. Make sense?
Yeah, it's just like, I think Mosaic specifically, like if you look at Mosaic and look at the football product, it being their first year, and I think something really good that Panini decided to do was say, all right, well, we're going to bring the stain class and put it in as the insert set of that and make it super scarce. Well, as a football collector, I might not care about Mosaic base cards and this and that, but I might have interest in purchasing or getting involved in that product at some level because I do have interest in the stained glass because it's a cool card and it's scarce. So I would much rather have that scenario than taking an insert and just spreading it thin and putting it throughout a bunch of different products. So totally agree with you there.
Yeah, so does Kickdown. He says, yeah, they don't have to recycle designs constantly, which I agree with. It'd be nice to spread them out a little bit, but you don't have to abandon them. It doesn't have to be one and done. You can bring them back in a tribute style sort of thing, or every third year, whatever it may be. There's ways to keep the design in rotation, but not water it down. I think that's an important balance that the card companies need to really find where that middle point is for that, for sure. Tiger Jordan says 90s inserts had parallels too. Think tops with refractors and then atomic refractor. Yeah, 100%. Hello, Superbad. Great to have you. Yam says, I was literally looking through Crosby McDonald's results when Brett called me out. Stay tuned. There you go, Yam. I knew it for sure. Yeah, Zed, I want cases of metal hockey too. I am so excited for that too. Justin says, oh man, I thought that Marvel would create a buzz. I think Marvel, I'm hearing some rumblings that Marvel is creating a buzz. It's not necessarily for me, although I can see myself chasing some of the Spider-Mans, the Hulks. I'm a big fan of Deadpool. I think a Deadpool PMG would be pretty awesome. I know they're out there. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I may, if there's any left after the show, that is. Cardboard Max says, I collect 92 Stadium Club members only basketball because it's the first premium basketball set, first insert set, Beam Team. Yeah, there's a good reason to collect right there. Michael says Marvel Comics got that, not as much as the cards, but the cards have gotten a boost for sure. We're seeing some of that. Steve Sir wants to see Young Guns for players that didn't get them in their rookie year, like Anders Lee, the captain of the New York Islanders. Yeah, but it's too late. They've done Young Guns in later years, especially 0405, but they're not during the player's rookie year. They're more tribute type. So it's almost like for modern players, you can't really do Young Gun anymore. If you do, it's not going to be an RC. It's just going to be an insert in a later year. Brett, you got something on any of this?
No, I spent this whole time, all these hockey conversations, just thinking about what Yamwax does during these shows. Let's get a camera on Yamwax. That should be like you. That's like should be one of your segments you kick it to. What's Yamwax searching for?
Let's look at Yamwax search. Let's look at the back of Yamwax's head while he's searching eBay for what we're talking about. Just Inventory says, okay, so this guy will know about WWF 97 Cardinal trivia set with Rocky, Maeva, and Stone Cold, etc. exploding in prices. Are you aware of what's going on there?
Yeah, these are the yellow border cards that we talked about, and I think there's been just a lot of attention on these. I think the thing I like about these cards, even though they're not like trading cards, they're trivia cards. I like the fact that these cards were played with. Like people open these up, played with them, and they're not in good condition typically. So the attraction is getting these cards in good grades, which is very difficult to do. Personally, like I would probably rather have these aren't my favorite cards just because they're trivia cards, and that to me I have an issue with those. So I'd much rather chase the 82-83 Wrestling All-Star cards, which are cards and have stories on their back and are meant to be trading cards, than I would the 97 set. But I think based on the boom of wrestling in the Attitude Era and those with Stone Cold, and which that is not Stone Cold's rookie card. There's the Stunning Steve WCW card, but that's the debate we can have on like what's the true rookie, this and that. But it is the Rock's rookie card. So I think like it's a good set. I think it's scarce. Not my favorite set. I think there's been a little bit of an overreaction in the hobby on it, but people like it. So we'll see what happens with it.
There we go. I want to bring up David's comment here. He says, Marvel cards are on fire. A PMG Green Iron Man just sold for $6K. A Jambalaya Spider-Man also, and the 92 Masterpieces are hot as well. So there's what's hot in Marvel right now, guys. Superbad says, do you guys think Upper Deck will come to basketball? It's not up to them. It's up to the NBA and the PA, but they would love to, no doubt about it. Just inventory, I'm calling a Panini Galaxy set similar to Metal. Yeah, I could see that happening. Cardboard Max sold a 2017 Prizm Silver Mahomes rookie card for $40 raw because at the time you doubled your money. Yeah, doubling is not a great return compared to what it would be now, but hey, hopefully you took that $40 and you put it into something that you love. That's all. Oh, we got Rodman Martinez in the house. Welcome, Rodman PC.
What's up, Rodman?
Yeah, one of the best Michael Jordan collections out there in terms of inserts and awesome scarce cards. I love it. Okay, guys, there's talk in the chat about what's going on at Golden Auctions right now. Yam informs us that the Jordan PSA 10 is over 700,000 and still going. So the last one was under 4, or I believe under 4. We had that SGC 10 that sold for 420 or 4 something a little while ago, but over 700K. That actually, I don't want to say it blows my mind, but that's worthy of discussion. Goes on to say the Fleer, it's over 700K now with buyer's premium still going. Yeah, we're surprised. Ryan Bitter says, can you please comment on Golden auction going crazy right now? I think it's a good time for us to do that. I'm going to say the first thing, Brett, then I'm going to turn it over to you. Gary V said publicly that Michael Jordan card will be $1 million card in the next year to whatever he said. I don't know. When Gary V says something like that, these things seem to happen a lot faster than he says they're going to happen. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking he said it, and there's some people out there who believe that it's worth $1 million, so they better go get one. Whether they're private equity people, whether it's the fractional ownership companies, or whether it's, our extremely wealthy fellow collectors. I don't know who it is. We may or may not find out. I'm not that surprised because of what's been put out there into the ether that this is going to be $1 million card one day. So not surprised. I don't know that the next one will sell for more. I don't know that it'll sell for less. Who knows? It's speculation. It's the one thing I do know is that it's exciting, and I just hope that it's sustainable. And I don't know that it is. Brett?
Yeah, I think my first comment is just to shout out Ken Golden and Golden Auctions and what he's been doing for the hobby. I mean, this guy is he's created this platform, and I mean, the excitement and the energy just in those posts, everyone's paying attention to it. So I think just shout out to him and what he's doing to the hobby. Just thumbs up, 100 stamp emoji in the air. Love what he's doing, and I think everyone should hit him with a follow. It's just a really good guy to be involved in the hobby. So there's that. I think the Jordan card, it's the iconic card. It's any hot LCS you go to in the country, there's probably a poster. There's probably something that resembles that card. So, I think Gary V probably adds to this a little bit, which my take is I think, Gary's it's good to have those cheerleaders on the sidelines with a big megaphone. I think the interesting thing will be, can the hobby and can the community, after some of these big sales, continue to support the growth and the elevation of that card? But the Jordan card, where that goes, the hobby goes. So my take on it is it's a really good thing for the hobby.
All right, man. Good take. Yeah. And thank you for the shout out to Ken Golden. He's certainly helped take the hobby more mainstream than it's ever been, just with his media appearances on CNBC and elsewhere. He's really brought a lot of attention to the hobby, and in my opinion, was the most influential person in the hobby last year. I don't know anyone who had more influence on the hobby than he did. So, in a real direct way, right? Gary V is influential too, but he's just talking. He's not in the business of the hobby at this. He might have some investments, sure, but he's not out there buying and selling cards in public like Ken Golden is, of course. Here, Bobby Baseball asked a question. We sort of touched on it, but I like the way he words it. Do you see vintage rarity as more important than manufactured modern rarity in cards? What do you think, Brett?
I'm personally not deep invested in the vintage game. I will say this. I love the concept and the idea of just time passing and value being added to cards just based on time passing. So I think, I don't know. I think vintage rarity, it's just when you can say like, like the mantle card, when you can say like, will we ever see a card graded higher than this, or if there's only a few sets, like there's a period of time where you're like, there's not going to be any more of these cards that appear, and something about that really gets me excited. But not typical, not big in the vintage, so I'm more into the manufactured side.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair. I mean, I'm going back and forth in my mind. I'm thinking to myself, well, it's about the same, because it comes down to populations, whether it's graded or just existing. And just because a card came out in 2020 instead of 1920 and has a serial number on it that makes it obviously rare at, say, 10, and you know that a card from 1920, there's 10 copies on the PSA BVG pop reports combined, those are equally as rare. One's 100 years old, one's 1 year old. So one has a lifetime of experience and then some, and one is just a baby. But the rarity is the same. It's almost like humans, right, Brett? When you're born, you're a one of one. When you're 100 years old, if you make it that long, you're a one of one. You're as rare as the next human being, just like the card out of one is as rare as the card out of one from way back in time. So what's more important? I mean, the traditionalists are going to say the vintage is more important. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I love it all. That's the thing about me. I collect cards from 1888 to 2021, and every year I add another year onto it. I think they're beautiful from all eras. So I don't know. I don't know what's more important. If I had to pick one, Brett, if I had to pick one to be more important, I'm going to go vintage. I just think it just makes more sense. But auctions of cards that are very rare, like the Giannis Logo Man that sold for $1.8 million by Ken Golden, there's very few scarce vintage cards that have even encroached on $1.8 million. So what's more important? But Giannis is still playing. He's got a big career ahead of him. There's 5 championships baked into that price. So who really knows? But I think I'd go with vintage on that if I had to pick an answer. But I think they're getting to be more even than ever before. That'd be my position on that.
Yeah. It's kind of the beauty is in the eye of the beholder take, and I think just with the Giannis example, it's the connection with the player in the market, and I think maybe just as the demographics of people in the hobby now, like you've got a lot of people that are between, maybe the ages of 30 and 40, and maybe they don't have the connection with a bunch of guys that are in the 50 night, the Bowman 48 Bowman set and this and that. So I think that plays a role in it too, but no great answer except for beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I think.
Yeah, good way to finish that discussion. Canner Collect says billionaires are coming into the hobby. The new floor is the ceiling. Yeah, I've never thought of it like that, but I like that comment. I want to think about it. Let it resonate in my head a little bit. I like that comment. Card Collector lets us know the Lou Gehrig rookie card is about to hit $1 million. Wow, I mean, that's a nice landmark for that card. Cardboard Max says, I try to buy cards that would make me flip my poop if I opened them in a pack. That's a great approach, right? Something that if it's going to make you flip your, you know what, that means that you love the darn card. So yeah, I think that's a great card to chase. Big Unit says, if 86 Jordan hits 1 million, how long before 03 tops Chrome? LeBron James hits 500K. Not long, Big Unit. Not long.
Yeah,
not long, man.
That's the connect. I mean, anytime Jordan cards are going to do something, LeBron is going to follow. I mean, just think about the conversations. They're already think about, okay, LeBron, let's talk about LeBron for a second. LeBron, I mean, the Lakers look like they're going to do it again. Okay. And then it gets to the point where you don't think LeBron's going to sit there and be like, all right, like I only need 2 more. Like, so I think that's the interesting thing. You've got an active legend of legends playing right now, and we're getting to watch this unfold and happen while this Jordan card's about to hit $1 million. That's the story. I'm not invested in any of it, but that's the storyline I'm watching from a sports fandom lens and from a hobby lens. It's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the LeBron, and who Card Collector makes the very smart comment that the refractor for the LeBron, not the base, because just population is going to hurt it. We're talking, 320 PSA 10 Jordans versus 15,000 or so I don't know the number on the LeBron Topps Chrome, but I know it's well into the thousands. So, but the refractor parallel could easily get there. Why not? We've seen them sell for 150 grand, I believe. So the 150 grand to 1 million, I think is an easier mountain to climb than 5 grand to 150 grand. Right. So
Totally.
Could be wrong on that, but I mean, it just seems like we're going to see it one way or another here. Cardboard Max is 2 years or less. Yeah, why not, right? The LeBron Chrome rookie won't hit 500K unless the Jordan hits 2.5. Could be. Cardboard Max says, congratulations, you've used a manufactured patch. Yeah, lots of manufactured patches out there. Rob Gardner, great discussion with these crazy auction prices. Could you discuss the crazy disparity between BGS 9.5 and PSA 10 prices? BGS seems to be a value now. I own both in my PC at times. BGS looks nicer. I mean, go ahead, Brett, please.
Yeah. So I have BGS slabs. I have PSA slabs, but it really comes down to, I mean, look at this last year and look at what, like, the market, and look at what people were saying or where the interest was. Most of the interest was in PSA. A lot of things happened in PSA's favor with the Nat Turner news. And I think Beckett took a little bit of a step back and there were some operational flaws with some of the way the backlog was handled from PSA's perspective. Somewhat as a consumer, I would say they probably did a better job with the communications. And so I just think, like, if you go to Instagram and someone's breaking a box of submissions that they got back, like, probably 9 times out of 10, those are going to be PSA slabs. So I just think the market right now has a vested interest towards PSA. And I think that PSA 10, like, just in nature, 10 is a lot more valuable than 9.5. And so I buy them both. I think it depends on both, but I think for me, and the difference in the separation between a 10 and a 9.5, I think is justified from the way that those two companies have gone over the past year and how the market has responded.
I agree, man. They use different grading scales, number one. So it's a lot harder to get a PSA 10, I believe, than it would be a BGS 9.5, just like it's much harder to get a BGS 10 than it is a PSA 10. But we have to understand that it doesn't mean that there's no BGS 10s hiding in PSA 10 holders. If you break out every PSA 10 Connor McDavid Young Gun and send them to BGS, you're going to get mostly 9.5s, probably no 9s, and you're going to get a couple BGS 10s, maybe even a black label if you're lucky. That's the nature of the game. Just like with BGS 9.5s. If you send those into PSA, you're going to get some 10s, you're going to get some 9s. Likely no 8s, but 9s and 10s. I don't know what that breakdown is going to be. But the one thing that BGS gives you are those subgrades in most cases, where you can actually make an educated guess, or not even a guess, an educated assessment as to whether or not that card will come back a PSA 9 or a 10 based on the subgrades. Is it min subgrades? Is it a true gem card at 4.95s, or is it a true gem plus? Right? Maybe it's a true gem plus. You got 3.95s and a 10, or 2.95s and 2 10s. You're very likely to get a PSA 10 out of that card. Anything to add to that, Brett?
You nailed it. And I think I loved how you called out the subgrades. I think that's a thing that I'm attracted to, that BGS is doing. And I think it's just the card in and of itself. I submit a lot. I'm constant because I think a high volume of activity is a healthy way to operate in the hobby. And so there are cards just based on the cards and brands they are that I know that I'm not going to get a 10 if I send it to PSA, because it's maybe a thicker stock card, or maybe it's a patch. And so those are cards I'm sending to BGS. But when I get those cards back, I do appreciate the subgrades, so I can have some sort of understanding of what went into the thought process when the final grade came out.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. There's nothing worse than getting your card back that you pre-graded as a 9. It comes back a 7 and you have no idea. Tell me why. You charged me so much money. Tell me why. Thanks for the question, Rob. Great question. Nick Sutherland says, just a statement. He says, so much focus on the GOATs in all sports, and LeBron is still going strong. And, goats, I think we're broadening the qualification to become a GOAT, because especially in basketball, no basketball I'm not going to say no collector. My opinion is that Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but you can call LeBron a GOAT. There can be more than one GOAT in the stable. There doesn't have to be just one GOAT anymore, even though it's greatest of all time implies one player. I get that. But you've got different GOATs in different eras, different generations. You got overlapping GOATs right now in hockey. We've got Crosby overlapping with McDavid, and maybe we'll get McDavid overlapping with Lafreniere if he did have a game-winning goal the other night in overtime, which was very exciting. I'm sure that a lot of Lafreniere investors / collectors let out a breath of air there. But GOAT to me is not. It doesn't necessarily. The definition isn't necessarily as technical as it could be or should be or would have been at one point in time.
Yeah, I like to use the term legends or iconic when describing those types of cards, and to me, or players, and to me, I think about them and think about championships, and I think about transformation. And like, if I can compare, if I've got some transformation or some championships, and I can think about them and apply it to a card, like that's why I think of Steph Curry. He's got the championships, transformative player. So to me, he's an iconic and he's a legend. Oh, I wouldn't necessarily call him the GOAT, but like, to me, I'm looking for those ingredients when I'm putting my money in sports card investments.
But he's the GOAT of 3-pointers.
But he's a subcategory. He's the GOAT of 3-pointers. He's the GOAT of shooting.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's GOAT worthy right there, right? Speaking of GOATs and how we look at them, Carvin Chung, the architect, the inventor of Cup and Exquisite, who's been on the show here a few times, very active on Instagram now. He likes to refer to GOAT moments in terms of, really assessing a player's legendary status in the hobby or in the sport. And players that have GOAT moments really become the true icons, the true legends, the true GOATs, the ones that we're never going to forget about. So, and I shout out to Carvin on Instagram at Carvin15. Give him a follow. The guy's got great insights. He worked at Upper Deck Panini. He's in distribution now. He's a collector. He had a LCS when he was younger. So he covers all the bases. So give him a follow and get some of his insights and watch him on this show and others as well. Fire Sports says, for me, Dan Marino is the GOAT. Yeah, fair. Nick Sutherland couldn't agree more. Buildership welcomes as GOATs, Jordan, Kobe, LBJ. Right. To me, that's bang on. Those are the 3 GOATs of basketball. There's other GOATs. There's Wilt Chamberlain. There's Magic Johnson. There's Larry Bird, co-GOATs. Bird Johnson, co-GOATs, right? And then you've got Bill Russell. And, there Kareem. Like, there's lots of... But the question is, Brett, is there only room for one GOAT? Or are these just legends and icons? And the other thing we're not mentioning is the Mount Rushmore approach, where, let's just make it easy. Let's go easy. Make it easier on ourselves. Let's pick 4 players so we don't have to exclude any of these great players.
To me, I'm such a trouble with the word GOAT because it's so overused in the hobby, I think. And I really view like the word, it's greatest of all time. There can only be one greatest of all time. But I like what you said about the moments, the GOAT moments. That makes a lot of sense to me. But again, all the guys you're talking about, the one thing everyone needs to focus on above all else, I think, is championships. Everyone you said, you can apply a championship with those players. So make sure if you're spending a lot of money on someone, there's a championship associated with them, because if there's not, there's a big room to whiff. And that's why I love Giannis. I love how he stayed in Milwaukee. I think he's a fantastic player. I view him a lot like Peyton Manning before Peyton Manning won a championship. And I had all those painful moments of Colts getting bounced by Tom Brady and the Patriots, and then the Peyton slayed the dragon, was finally able to do that. I'm hoping for that for Giannis, but the reason why I can't get deep in the Giannis game right now is because he doesn't have the championship.
You're right. He doesn't have the championships, but the championships are built into his prices already.
That's right.
It's the same with Connor McDavid. So these guys who are they're the best of right now that haven't won yet. Those championships are built in. And I agree with you. Championships are important for the long-term value of a player. And it's there are some players who've never won that are still important, but You need those championships to cement your spot, I believe, on that Mount Rushmore of the hobby. Yeah. I like this comment. Canner says, we are all goat farmers. Yes, yes, we are. Goat herders, goat hoarders. We're all in the goats business. But I agree with you, Brett. It's not even a nice sounding word, goat, and yet we use it to describe our favorite cards of our favorite players, sort of thing, the best players ever. But you're right. There can only be one greatest of all time. The problem is no one can agree on it.
No one can.
And that's what keeps it interesting, I suppose, right? GOAT moment. The 2008 Topps Chrome LeBron Kobe card, says Peeps. That's a GOAT moment card right there. I agree. That is a really, really cool card. Hockey Guy says, for me, Zygmunt Palffy is the GOAT. Ziggy Palffy is an obscure hockey player from the 1990s that weaved his way through defenses. Card Collector says, wow, Luka Gold Prizm is at $650K without buyer's premium. Oh, Chris from House of Jordans is loving hearing that.
Wow.
Billy is the GOAT. That's Billy from Upper Deck. Yes, I'm Coco for goats. We're having fun with the GOAT word right now. Loves the 2008 Kobe card. Getting one great. LL Cool J is the GOAT. There's what we're talking about, Max. There's what we're talking about. My buddy Eastridge Sports. This is Mike. My LCS locally says the collector side of me collects the shiny numbered parallels over autos and memorabilia cards. I don't need 20 autographs of the same player. That's my position too. I don't need 20 of the same player. I'm happy with one. Giannis, kickdown. Giannis will come. Giannis's time will come post LeBron. Very, very possible for sure. Oscar Dad, welcome, says Mike Trout is in the same boat. No championships. Right. There's a great example of that situation where it doesn't seem to matter. He's got the second most expensive sports card of all time in his name. So that doesn't necessarily matter. And Mike goes on to say, I think cultural relevance also holds a degree of importance as well as championships. Ichiro has never played in a World Series, yet his rookie cards sell well. Great point to add on. Hey, Brett, what do you want to add to that?
I love that point. I think cultural relevancy is a huge piece of it all. And I think that's a hell of a call out. I agree completely. The thing, Jeremy, I can't believe we went this whole conversation without talking about the hobby heartthrob Luka, and you just shot up the $650K on the gold Prizm. I cannot believe that right now. Oh my goodness. I'm like, stop. That's where we're at in the hobby right now. I am stunned that's where we're at right now. It's crazy.
I mean, what does that mean for gold Prizms, Topps Chrome gold parallels out any of these gold cards out of 10? I mean, that's a monstrous amount of money for a card from 2018. Don't care who the player is. He hasn't won a championship, but that price implies that he's won 3 or 4 or 5. And what happens if he doesn't win 3 or 4 or 5 championships? Like, one is good. One championship is good. It gets you into the annals of history. It might not be the way to say that word, but that gets you into the annals of history. I don't know what this means, man, but it means that anyone who's holding one is partying right now.
There's never, ever been more pressure on a player in any collectors who own those players than it is on Luka Doncic right now. Full stop in history. This is crazy. And I love watching Luka, and he's incredible. I think he has the opportunity to win several championships, but there's the other side of it too, where there could be an injury and he could never play again, which we would all hate to see that, and that would be terrible. And I just think you always got to make sure you're mitigating risk if you're in that position where you don't have championships and you've got some moments, but you certainly have a whole career ahead of you. And that's just I'm going to be thinking about this going to bed tonight. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna. Yam says the golden auction is a goat rodeo tonight. Name says Jeremy is the goat of hobby YouTube. Brett is the goat of hobby podcast. Thank you, Name. Appreciate those compliments. Canner says, I think we're all waiting to see who's going to carry the NBA post LeBron. I mean, it's shaping up to be Giannis or Luka at this point in time. Zion, it would be kind of in there as well, as far as I can tell. Card Collector says you don't need a championship in baseball. Different sport. Well, yeah, certainly it's obviously a different sport, but I want to know why. Why don't you need a championship in baseball when you do in the other three major sports, even golf? You need a major to be really important. Why don't you need one in baseball? Because it's the same countries, it's the same fan base for the most part, it's the same hobby base. Why don't you need a championship in baseball to be important? Or is that statement just kind of wrong and you do? Because Mike Trout, just like Giannis, just like Luka tonight, they're achieving these huge numbers without championships. Are they going to, we don't know if it's going to sustain. So we may not know if you need one or not in baseball, but I'm curious why. Brett, what do you think?
I think, and I will be the first to admit I'm not a baseball collector and I'm not a massive baseball fan, but I will say that to me, it seems like if anytime baseball gets brought up in just like the modern instance of cards that people want and care about, like a lot of that conversation has been directed at Derek Jeter, and Derek Jeter does have the hardware and he has the mainstream likability, and he's part of that Yankee lineage, he's part of that big market. So that's one of the things I don't necessarily understand, where I know, Trout has got the numbers and he's, unbelievable, but doesn't have the success in the playoffs or the championships. That's where I think it's a little risky, because I don't know. It might not be the same, but I think championships always matter regardless of the sport.
I think so as well. We're going to come to a comment below that speaks to it, but I'm going to go in order here. I like this comment by Max. God, I would love to see Larry Bird whip LeBron James. Adam Crawford, really good question here. What do you think will be looked back on as the green PMG of the current era? My money is on Prizm Parallels out of 10 or less. I mean, I think we're learning tonight possibly that it's going to be those gold prisms. They're out of 10, just like the green PMG was. Brett, any other?
I think that that's probably the safest take. I think if you want my under the radar take based on aesthetics and rarity, and just, I think there's a community of people within the hobby that are talking about them, but I see it. It's not in the most desirable set, but it's a card that exists. I think the Galactics and Revolution they're my favorite card in the hobby, and I think they're a lot of people's favorite card in the hobby, that I can see those cards kind of comparing a little bit with the PMGs.
All right. Yeah. Could be right. Time will tell. Cardboard Cam says Durant might be the guy to take over. Could be. Master Dama says now we can all buy shares of Gold Luka, implying that it was purchased by Rally or Collectible or one of the other fractional companies. Garrett Collinger says baseball is slugging percentage, home runs, gold gloves, all-star appearances, batting average, etc. Mike from Eastridge says something to be said for individual achievements as well. Fair comments. Kickdown says it's personal stats and achievements hidden in a team-oriented game, which I think is true, right? These are still team sports. If you don't win, you lose. If you don't win, you lose. Mm-hmm. And winning is much more important. And you ask any player what they'd rather have, the personal accolades or the championship. They all, except for a few a-holes out there, they all want the championship. So, I'm with them. I still think championship's more important than personal accolades. What about you, Brett?
Yeah, no, I've hitting a dead horse with this one, but yeah, championships are a qualifier for me when I'm spending a lot of money in the hobby.
Fair. But, Chris Sampson says baseball needs a team and one player can't make a championship team. That's fair. It's a really fair comment. You can be buried on a crappy team and be the best player in the league, and you're not going to win because you're on that team. Football, you have it. If you got the best quarterback in the world, you can maybe win a championship based on him and a decent line and some receivers. Basketball, I think if you have the right guy leading you, you can do it. Hockey, baseball, a lot harder to do it with one excellent player. And of course, then we get into the individual sports like golf and tennis where, well, it's a whole different ball game. Curry says an individual player can't take over a game like in basketball, right? Agreed. Makes good sense. Baseball is a real sport of individuality. So yeah, it makes sense. What about Griffey Jr.? No championships. Good. Yeah.
Good point. Good point there.
Good one. Yeah. Very good one. Good one. Yeah. And yet I think he's an awesome player, was in his time, and worthy of collecting. So Yeah, Card Collector says, does Griffey have champ? No. Ernie Banks, Nap Lajoie. Nope. Number one guy without a championship, Ted Williams. So there you go.
There's a strong shout out to the baseball collectors out there with the strong response on this. Like I said, I'm not a big baseball collector, but appreciate the passion on these takes. I think that's important. Educating me on it too.
Exactly. There it is right there. Educating, because this is actually helping me develop my theory on this whole on this whole idea, right? Because I like to think I'm open-minded enough that if I have my theory on anything and it works for me, it'll work for me until someone else opens my mind to something I didn't think of before or present me with some examples. And then I'm going to be humble enough to say, all right, I'm going to throw my theory out the window and I'm going to bring in this new one because I've been enlightened. My mind has been expanded and I wasn't able to do it on my own. I needed someone to help me do that. It's been done and I'm going to open my mind to it. And that pretty much has happened during this episode right now on this topic. So thank you to everybody who pushed back, really. Toa Hung says, I think ultra modern NBA is a good buy right now with prices going down and everyone buying up 80s Jordans, Kobe's, and LeBrons. There could be an opportunity there because of that, for sure. Rondell says, baseball is all about the stats. Championships are a bonus. Okay. McDavid has no cups. Yes, true. Hockey guy says, baseball is a team sport. A single player can't win a game. Okay, more of that. Thank you, hockey guy. We're with you now.
Our hands are up.
I concede. What about select cards? I don't really have much to say about select cards. I think they're finding their way into importance. Oz Carded, why are you considered great if you're not able to win? If he's that good, then in my opinion, he should be winning. Otherwise, there's just empty stats. Well, but based on what we've learned today, you can't. One player doesn't win, especially in baseball, when really half the team is kind of sitting in the dugout for half the game anyway. So you're not even in action most of the time. Okay, that can be said for most sports. So hockey guy says, not like the Angels that can give the bat to Trout, like every AB, sorry, I'm just going to skip it. I don't understand the question. Michael Kovac says, baseball, only sport where the best player on the team can't help his team win unless he's up to bat. Ball, his Trout has 3 to 4 at bats and is powerless to help his team if a ball isn't hit into center field. Okay. Nap Lajoie had his team named after him. That's more impressive than a championship for sure. Ken on Instagram just said $30 million auction. That's Ken Golden. Thanks for the update, Canner. Kickdown says, what's the wrestling set to go after? Is there a Young Guns or Prizm Rookie-esque card for beginners to go after and start in that world? Or is it more find what you like since it's so niche?
Yeah, so wrestling's really tough, and it's not like any others. It goes regional, it goes domestic, it goes international. There's a lot of different sets. I would say if you want to get your feet wet, dig into the 82-83 Wrestling All-Star set. That is the 86 flair of wrestling cards. Go look and study that set and get educated. It's the legends before they were legends. That's the premise of those cards. Go look into those cards. That's where I'd start.
Good stuff. Fire Sports says, how about Barry Sanders? No Super Bowl. It's a team game. Select is my favorite Panini brand, says Luke F73. Garrett Gollinger says, would Ovechkin not be considered great if he didn't win a cup, even with the goals achieved? If he retired without a cup, he would still be considered a great of the game. Yeah, he would be still considered a great of the game. But winning that cup in hockey certainly cemented him, as far as hockey collectors go, as more worthy than he would have been without the cup. But anyway, I think we started the fourth inning. That's a fair comment, Master Damas. And here, baseball is definitely stat and likability ran. The Angels can't have Trout hitting for every at-bat. Nope. Oscar says, generally the teams with the best players win. That's the case for majority of team sports. Can't see why baseball should be any different. So we definitely have a debate going on here, Brett, and it's an interesting one. And I can see both sides of it. We're not going to put down the hammer on what is right or what is wrong, because I think there's a lot of subjectivity here.
I'll touch on the Ovechkin comment, is that as a non-watch hockey is my main product and watch hockey every day, I certainly watch that Stanley Cup because I was familiar and aware of Ovechkin. And then the moment of him winning that and getting the cup, to me, in modern hockey memories, that one stands out. And when I think about hockey, like that memory of Ovechkin getting the cup is one of the top. And so like, I just think of that cup and I think of Ovechkin. That's important to me as someone who's not day-to-day in the hockey product, like most of the people who are probably watching your show. So I just wanted to call that out. Like if I have one visual of hockey from the last, however many years, it's that memory.
Well, so that's important, right? That speaks to how important that event was. We're going to go to Name's comment here. Then we're going to wind this down, Brett. Name says, I brought this up before, but Brian Trottier has 6 Stanley Cups as a player and is 17th all-time in NHL scoring. Needs more love in this hobby. Yeah, I mean, that goes counter to what we were saying earlier. The difference with Brian Trottier is he was never the leader of the team. He won cups with Mike Bossy. Well, I mean, he was with Mike Bossy. It was Bossy and Trottier in those days in the early 80s with the New York Islanders. And when he won them with Pittsburgh, it was Jagger and Mario Lemieux and Ron Francis and Kevin Stevens and Paul Coffey and all those guys. So, but yeah, I mean, still, it just goes to say you can win 6 championships and not get hobby love. So it's really, you got to look at each player individually to determine what their hobby love resume needs to have and is it good enough to earn it.
Yeah, people aren't going out there and buying Robert Horry cards. I know that, and he's got a few championships.
Right. Peep says, speaking of Fleer hockey, the Ovechkin rookie, yes. Peep says, bring back Fleer hockey. I'm with you on that. Just Inventory says, I'll play devil's advocate and say that some players are overrated because of playing on championship teams. I agree with that as well, right? Not every player on a championship team is integral to that team winning, but they're all part of the team still, and you can't take away those rings from them unless they give them to Ken Golden to sell in his auction for them, which is happening all the time. All right, man. Listen, I think this has been a ton of fun, but we're not going to stop without getting to ComC Barry's comment, who jumps in at the end here. Our man from ComC. Barry says, I think championships are something that will be less of a determiner in the future if, say, 50 years from now, there are 80 teams. Interesting take, Barry. One that I wouldn't have thought of. But you're right. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thanks to you, peeps. Bill Russell has 11 rings, so he is better than Jordan. If you say so, Fire. If you say so. Oscar Debt says, all good. I was just curious as to why Trout gets so much love in the hobby. Right. Because he's a great player. I guess that's why. And you don't need championships to get love in the hobby. But, and I think we've shown tonight, you don't need championships to get long-term love in the hobby either. So good night to you, peeps. Listen, Brett, we're going to skip the Sports Cards Live 5 because I do have a after-hour show coming up with Chris, Vegas Fine 777. We're going to start that in about 20 minutes from now. But I do want to do, where did I put it? Oh, no. I wanted to do my PC card of the day. This is a segment where I show a card from my personal collection that relates to my guest of the night. My guest tonight is none other than Brett McGrath of the Stacking Slabs podcast. And Brett, we didn't get to most of my notes tonight. The chat is really busy. I wanted to hear more about some of your favorite episodes of your podcast, some of the guests that you've had, some of the biggest nuggets of insight that has been gleaned from your podcast. Does anything come? Can you actually spoil us with a couple of those insights that you've gleaned from your best episodes before we cut this off?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to talk and communicate with people from all different phases and facets of the hobby. That's how I learn. Different eras, I think about talking with Rob, who is the owner and operator at Burbank Sports Cards, who sells more sports cards on eBay than anybody else in the world. And just the amount of insights and him being in the game for so long, like I've learned so much. I've learned so much from talking with people like Chris from House of Jordans, who's got a very analytical perspective when it comes to sports cards and how he's looking and researching data. So I think, like, for me, what attracts me to just the community is just everyone's got different skill sets, everyone's got different passions, and make sure you're talking with people that are like you, but then also people that are different from you, because the more learning and being a sponge and absorbing information, the better operator you'll be. So that's why I love doing the podcast. I love meeting people. I love getting the perspectives, because it makes me a better operator in the hobby, and it also gives me some strategic insights on maybe where I should be pointing my interest in my own personal collecting.
Well said, man. I appreciate that. Guys, if you're not yet following Brett on Twitter and or Instagram, his handle is on the screen right now on the ticker. His podcast is called Stacking Slabs. Check it out. It's a great podcast to listen to while you're going for a walk, driving in the car, working out, whatever it is you're doing. Give it a listen. He brings on guests. You can tell he's just a good dude, a good vibe, someone that's fun to listen to. I'm now going to bring up my PC card of the day, little overlay there for the segment, Brett. As I mentioned to you, PC card of the day is meant to kind of open your eyes a little bit and say, hey, that's a cool card. I wanted to relate to my guest. As I told you the other day, I only have one wrestling card in my collection, but it's a doozy. It's a doozy. I'm going to take it out of the cellophane here. The cellophane. Take it out of this thing, the one-touch holder. I love this card, Brett. It's not a rookie, nothing like that, but it's probably the coolest card. 125 of these made. It's a Hulk Hogan PMG employee exclusive. What do you think of that?
My first question to you is, have you ever considered selling it?
No, I've never considered selling it. I will tell you, it's not a card I've had for a long time. I acquired it late last year. I purchased it from a very an awesome Instagrammer at MK Sports Cards. You're probably familiar with Mike, and he shows great cards daily on Instagram. And he parted with this. It was part of a 3-card deal. I picked up a couple others from the set from him, but this was just such a neat card of Hulk Hogan. I mean,
it's a great card. I know a couple of the other owners of that card out there, and man, that's one of those ones that I have a saved eBay auction for that to hope to pop up again. PMG, Hulk Hogan, employee issued. There's a Mike Tyson from that set as well. That's ultra limited and rare, but it's stuff like that I'm super attracted to in the hobby, especially with a guy like Hulk Hogan. Beautiful card, man. Kudos to you on that one.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And actually, when I bought this card, it came with I purchased the Mike Tyson as well as the Michael Phelps.
Oh, man, you got the 3 I'd want. Good for you.
But what I'm missing, I didn't get the Tiger Woods, which is the big one from the set, right? The Mike Tyson is no slouch, and I think this card is probably a bit of a beast in and of itself. So really happy with it. And I mean, I followed wrestling in the 80s in the AWA and the WWF. When it changed to WWE, I was out of wrestling by then, out of being a fan, past it. But I mean, Hulk Hogan to me is a GOAT. He is wrestling for people like me.
Yeah, he's the Babe Ruth of wrestling. So I think just my closing comments on this and wrestling cards in general, it's like if you want to get into it and you want to be safe about it, like Hulk Hogan's a really easy and safe place to start.
Awesome, man. Thanks for that. All right, we're going to go to the final comments have been rolling in. I did mess up the draw for the giveaway at the beginning of the episode, guys, so we're going to do that again before we sign off here. Brett, I'll leave it up to you if you want to stick around with me for it. I hope you do. It won't take long. I'm just going to run through some of these final comments, and then we're going to do that. We're going to do the random again for the giveaway of the Zion Williamson PSA 9 Prizm base given away by Investacard, who Edward was my guest on Wednesday. All right, so final comments from the chat here, guys. I appreciate all you coming out tonight. This has been a lot of fun, Brett. Great guest tonight, man. You got great insights, a great vibe going. Let's get to them here. Max says no one cares about BGS pop reports. Their website stinks and the prices are in the toilet. It's a take. Sean Johnson says, has a live deal ever gone down on this show? I don't know about that, but I've bought a card while I've been bought a card on eBay while I've been running a show. I had to do that a couple times. Toa Hang says, who's the maker of that card? This is an Upper Deck PMG. It's an Upper Deck. It's actually an Upper Deck employee exclusive. And it looks like the original. It's an homage to the originals. Kickdown, beautiful golden locks on that Hogan, no doubt. Pop reports are king, says Max. BGS pop. Oh, yeah, people. That's the one thing about pop reports, guys. You got to be careful. They're not exactly accurate anymore. Thank you, 3M Malone Money Mindset in the house. Check out his YouTube channel as well, guys. We got some great YouTubers in the house tonight. Do we consider wrestling a legit sport? I mean, that's a whole other topic.
Sports entertainment.
Sports entertainment. Well said, man. I mean, those guys are athletic, no doubt about it. Yam Wax says, great discussion. So fun to be with you guys on this historic night. Thank you, Yam. Great to have you as always, man. Miss you, buddy. We haven't chatted in a while. We should hook up. We should hook up for a chat. BGS are the real deal. Thank you, Brent Criswell, for dropping in. I'm glad you enjoyed. Toa, thanks for coming by tonight, guys. If you're new to the show, if you're first time on Sports Cards Live, I want to thank Brett for bringing more viewers to the channel, to the show. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to Sports Cards Live. I go live every Saturday with guests. We have a great time. We have some special episodes popping up here and there as well. And it's just been a lot of fun. So check it out. Check out the archives. Hit the subscribe. Hit the thumbs up, all those things. I greatly appreciate it. Brent Criswell, great looking hockey PMGs lately too. I agree. UFC cards are going to the moon. That's happening. Wrestling is a live action stunt show. Hey, I mean, that's a take. That's a take. Those guys are, but they're athletes. No, you cannot take away their athleticism. All right. I have to do this random draw on behalf of Investacard and on behalf of Sports Cards Live. One of the viewers from last Wednesday's episode is going to win this PSA 9 Base Prizm Zion Williamson. Here we go, guys. These are so I'm going to take these off because that was a mistake. These are the 17 people that have a horse in this race. And these are your numbers beside your names. So Jared Cheese Gaming is number 1. J-Rod is number 2, all the way down to Jordan Hagedorn at number 17. Those are the numbers that matter. I'm now going to bring up the random page right here. And the mistake I made last time was I didn't adjust the min and the max. I have to adjust this to 17. I forgot to do that. So that's my apologies. We're going to stick with what Brett said at the beginning of the show. We're going to do 5 randoms. The person whose number shows up at number 5 is going to be the winner. We're going to do a backup in case I don't hear from that winner within 48 hours. And I need to hear from you within 48 hours on my socials. Here it is, my Twitter and my Instagram. That's where you reach out to me and let me know. Brett, here we go. You're good with 5 times again?
5 times.
5 times. All right, here we go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Spot number 2 is J-Rod 82182 is our winner. We're going to hit the randomizer one more time so we can get a backup winner in case we need it. 1 time. Spot number 9. The backup belongs to Joe Perot, my man Joe. You are the backup if we don't hear from J-Rod within 48 hours. So 10:13. I'm in Mountain Standard Time Zone. I'm going to write this down. If I don't hear from J-Rod by 10:13 p.m. on Monday night, the card goes to Joe, and Joe is someone I know how to reach out to, so he will definitely get the card if I don't hear from J-Rod. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining the show tonight. Thank everybody for joining the chat. Thank you, Nick Sutherland. Great having you. Money Malone Mindset. Great to have you. Oscar Dad feels like a breaker channel. I'm okay with that. It's not the end of the world, but it is not a breaker channel. I promise you that. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Brett, man. Awesome to hang out with you. Really enjoyed it. Love your vibe. Love your podcast. Love your Instagram page. Guys, go give this guy a follow everywhere you can. Listen to his podcast. You're missing out if you're not already. I appreciate it. Thank you, GMOs. 100 watching right now. It's been a great night. Thank you, Name. Thank you, Kickdown. Appreciate all you guys. We're going to sign off. I'll be back in 15 minutes with Chris. Vegas Fine 777 on After Hours. Brett, final words from you, and then we're out.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate all you're doing for the hobby. Bringing me on here on a Saturday night, enjoying the conversation. Keep doing what you're doing, man. This is what the hobby needs. Appreciate it, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, Brett. Same to you, man. Thanks for joining. Best of luck with your podcast. I love it. Keep it going. You're integral to the hobby content space. Thank you so much, Steve Sir. Great to have you. Thank you, Kelly Winters. Great to have you, everybody. That is it. We are back on the channel in 15 minutes with Vegas Fine 777. We will see you there.
Take it easy.